Hey, this is Nick the Mind Book Guy, and today I've got another geopolitical book for you, The Accidental Superpower by Peter Zeihan. I actually mentioned this briefly in a video I did a couple years ago, but I just read it again for the second time. I'm really glad I did, because this book was written late 2014, I think I read it in 2015, and so many of the little predictions in this book, I feel like well, some of them are definitely off, but a bunch of them are really on in terms of the big picture, but it's like, 3 years later, it's even more relevant today. And if there's one big reason to read this, Peter Zeihan is American, geopolitics expert. There are some other people out there who talk about, the U.S. Being still a dominant place, but he really hits it better than anyone else. And it's the beginning of the book too, which is great. Like the first 60, 80 pages or so, they're really engrossing. They cover so much ground, and that thesis of the U.S. can have all these problems and do all these things in like the wrong way and not even realize it, and still be by far the the superpower in the world, the expectation that it will continue to be, and really that continues to be a contrarian idea. I think a lot of people would read this and they get angry, and I think a few years ago I would have gotten more angry about it, and just because it's like, oh, it can't be that simple. There's all these other countries that are doing a better job of things. But I really love studying geopolitics because of the unique ideas in a book like this. It just blows away, typical financial or economic thinking that you see in the mainstream. So that's really the best this book has to offer, are big, compelling, contrarian ideas about the U.S. continuing to be a superpower despite all sorts of mistakes or other things going on in the world. But it's not to say that there aren't some flaws in the book. I love that there's such a focus on demographics, and that does tie into generations, but I do think there's a little bit of weakness in terms, well, weakness might not be the best word, but I think generational thinking is very important, and I think that could be a little more clear-cut in a book like this. There is a focus on resources, but there's a lot of talk on shale oil, and Peter actually wrote a great second book, which has a little bit of a different focus, but a lot of it is on oil. He doesn't talk about other resources enough, in my opinion. There's actually two sides to that. There's just the metals and the mining side, which it's absolutely true that it's much smaller than oil and typical energy metals. But the fact that there's so little discussion of that in the geopolitical realm, I think could be a bit of a blind spot. Of course, I'm biased, being in the junior mining space and looking at this stuff. But not only that typical resource side, but gold, he really dismisses it. I don't think you need to be a gold bug or anything to realize there's something going on in the background with all these central banks holding gold, a lot of accumulation from certain countries. I just feel that was dismissed more than it should be, and it also could be the type of thing that does make a difference. They're really, if there was going to be a U.S. weakness, I wouldn't say it's directly related to gold, because the U.S. supposedly has quite a bit in its central banks. We're not going to get into that discussion, but sometimes if you miss an argument like that, it really can take down a lot of the other ideas in the book. But there's so much good stuff here. Every time you have a lot of predictions, and some of these predictions, the smaller ones later in the book, talking about all the other countries, you can tell they're already pretty far off, but that doesn't take away from the main idea. And I'll add that one really good idea in this book was surfing the peak, and that ties in with the demographics and the economics and everything. And from 2015 to 2018, he nailed that so well. And I won't go into the details on what that means, but it was in the middle of the book, and I just thought that was one example of a really neat idea that was spot on, and we're probably not going to be surfing the peak much longer. But anyway, Great geopolitics book. I don't see too many people talking about it. One other thing, you can scroll down from this YouTube video. I'm going to link to Peter's free newsletter. I thought about reading this book again because of some of the neat ideas that he shares there, and there was a little series. So if you want to know more before or after reading the book, make sure to click the links below this video. This is Nick the Mining Book Guy. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. See ya.